The Shed Show team proudly support Men's Sheds and LifeLine.
Out the back, down the yard, is my shed. Have some fun, maybe hide with my friends. The Shed Show, the Shed Show, the Shed Show, the Shed Show. Come on, the Shed Show, the Shed Show. Let's go. The Shed Show, the Shed Show. Come on.
How you doing? On the Shed Show today.
Soon I'm chauffeured to the shed in the back of a classic Bentley. I introduce you to the real Tim the Toolman, an award-winning custom artist and an award-winning young guitarist. Plus we catch the tram to meet a Melbourne icon at his shed. All that and more coming up on the Shed Show.
We're on our way to meet Arthur, a living legend. Arthur's got numerous sheds dotted around his property, but there's a couple in particular I really want to see. Arthur, you're a man of many sheds, obviously.
Well, one main shed, Whiskers, one main one, and a workshop.
We've got to look at this old T model here. This is fantastic, isn't it? What year would this one be, Arthur?
It's 100 years old this year, and it can cruise all day at 40, 45 kilometres an hour, and it's a genuine T model.
Hayes since 1899, so there's obviously been a history with the Arthur Hayes family as well.
My grandfather came to Kyneton in 1899 and started a little grocery shop.
What a beautiful vehicle, and of course it's on club permit, and I'm glad to see you still use it. That's the best thing about these things, Arthur, hey?
Yeah.
This is a beautiful old Jag, Arthur. Tell us a bit about this one as well. What year is it? 70s?
74. I've done 500,000 Ks in this since I got it in 1986.
Yes.
It really is only broken down once, and that's a little wire came off the coil.
So the myth about Jags, you have to have two Jags if you want to be a
Well,
Jag lover, because
there
one's usually
was-
in the shop.
The ones that came out here and were assembled in New Zealand, they
Bit dodgy.
Bit dodgy. But this has been terrific.
This is a beautiful looking car. Now, tell me a bit about it. It's a Bentley, is it?
Bentley, made by Rolls-Royce. Yes. The sports Rolls, they call them. 1948. Going through the age, the old cars, there was a black Bentley for $10,000. So, but it had lots of rust and dents and no upholstery and whatever. And it turns out that it's Sir Arthur Coles of G.J. Coles, one of the four brothers that started G.J. Coles. And this was his car, but if you notice the number plate, NL500, that's Sir Arthur Coles' original number plate. It's been registered all its life.
Do you mind if I have a sit in the back seat, Arthur?
I think it would suit you very well.
I've always wanted to be chauffeured somewhere, but anyway. I'll tell you what, Arthur, we could throw a party in the back here.
Well, it's a good. It'd be a good party.
Beautiful.
Now, would you care for a morning port?
I'd love a morning port. Can I have it in the back here in my tray, please, Arthur?
Could I give him a port?
So you obviously restored all this.
No, I had it restored. Because it was an absolute wreck inside. There was only corrugated iron where that dashboard was. And there were no seats. And
Whoever restored it for you have done a wonderful job too.
wonderful, yeah.
Thank you very much. Oh, Mr. Coles, he knew what he was up to, didn't he?
He did.
Cheers. We only travel first class on the Shed Show.
Whiskers, you obviously are enjoying this back seat. Why don't you sit back and let me chauffeur you around the property?
Listen to that rumble. She started up first pop too. Now, Arthur, as we're travelling around the lovely Walnut Estate here, I just noticed the engine. You can hardly hear it. It is purring along. What have you got under the bonnet in the Bentley?
It's a 4 1/4 litre, very long stroke, very quiet, but it's an F head, an overhead valve inlet side exhaust, and twin SUs, 4-speed gearbox. There's nothing rough about it, and that's why you're not hearing much of the engine, and you're experiencing the smoothness of it all.
And we're going over some bumpy ground here at the moment, aren't we, Arthur? And you don't even feel it, really.
But you don't want your drink to be spilt.
Of course.
The Shed Show, the Shed Show. Come on.
If you want to be part of the Shed Show team, make sure you follow us on social media. Or you can check us out on the website, theshedshow.com.au.
Shed Show, the Shed Show. Come on.
Now, obviously, the other shed, Arthur, was all about show, but sometimes you've got to make these things go as well. Do you do all your own work on these classic cars?
No, I'd love to say I do, but we get professionals in to do the major work. Therefore, I have a hoist and tools to be able to fix the small stuff.
But while we're leaving your car collector shed, I nearly fell down this hole here. This is beneath your shed. What is down there?
It's a fireproof trapdoor because if there was a massive fire, like on Ash Wednesday,
Yep.
I could get down there. I've got water down there and some wine, and I could stay as long as I needed in great safety.
Do you want me to go first, Arthur?
Yes, but turn around and go backwards and you won't hurt your head.
It's a wine cellar.
Indeed.
It's a wine cellar come bomb shelter, is it? I noticed there's a candle here. I'll see if I can get it going.
That's to check the canaries. In Bendigo, you have very hot summers and also cold winters, and wine doesn't like the variation much. So by putting a proper cellar in, the variation doesn't move between 14 and 18 right throughout the year. To let good wine be cooked in the summer was the motivation to put this in.
Now, Arthur, as I said earlier, you're a man of many sheds, and this is probably the most humble on the Walnut estate, and probably the most tiniest as well, but there's a story behind this. Was this the first shed you had on the property?
I bought the property in 1991 and I had a tent and a little boy. Camping here was terrific, but you needed a toilet and you really do need a shower. So I bought a bath, a terrazzo bath, and most important in this very tough soil, a toilet. It's been an absolute joy, this place. I even put the telephone on.
I believe it's up for sale, Walnut Estate, is that right?
Sadly it is. I'm going to join my family down near Macedon.
This would be the perfect bed and breakfast.
Or a retreat for someone in Melbourne that wanted to get away from the mad weather of Melbourne to come to Bendigo, over the divide, an hour and a half. It's perfect. It really is.
Arthur, thank you very much. Thank you for the morning tea, the beautiful port from your wine cellar.
Indeed.
Thank you very, very much, and we appreciate it greatly, and thank you for being a part of the Shed Show.
If you want to see extended interviews on any of the segments, just hit up the Shed Show website. Next up, we tool up with Tim and his shed. Plus, it's art for your sake with the king of the flame, artist Steve May.
The Shed Show, the Shed Show. Come on. The Shed Show, the Shed Show. Come on.
Sheds reveal a lot about the people who actually own them, but they can also reveal a lot about our history and what's made this country as great as what it is. Come and have a look inside this shed and you'll see what's built Australia. Now, I guess, Tim, that's why they call you Tim the Toolman, because you do have a penchant for tools, the historical type tool. Now, what do we got here? These, are they wrenches, are they?
Yeah, it's adjustable wrenches.
Now, where did you come across all these?
Oh, you just got to keep your eyes peeled at clearance sales.
And is that something from an old railway you were telling me about?
That's an old railway spanner. I got that at a clearance sale up at Wilcannia.
Now, Tim, there's nothing plain about your shed, pardon the pun, but are these old antique planes by the look of it, are they?
Yeah, planes and technicians' cases and briefcases, and this one here is an old Victor sewing machine.
Oh, Victor, I thought they only made mowers, but they obviously made sewing machines as
Well,
well.
they're in the sewing machines before mowers.
Is this an old first aid kit, Tim? Can I open that up?
Yeah,
Oh, look.
it's an old medicine chest. It's good for coughs, colds, sore holes and the clack. Good for just about everything.
Everything. Now, I've just noticed this behind the medicine cabinet. What is this? Is it an old meat grinder or what is this?
That's a rope maker.
The new era rope machine.
It twists the rope and comes out the other end as perfectly usable rope.
There you go. Tim knows all the ropes. You've obviously got a penchant too for scales.
I'm down to my last 76 sets of scales.
you were just pointing this one out. What does that do?
That is actually an egg weighing scale.
You're yoking.
I ain't yoking at all. A bit dusty, the old chemist scales. Put a shilling in it and off you go.
Yeah, and find out how much you weigh, and it's not always a good sight too.
They still work well too, unfortunately.
And really this area, Tim, is a bit like Club Toolman, because this is a resort out the back there. It's an indoor-outdoor shed, great setup. What is this up here, a PA system?
That's the PA system, yeah.
Oh, we've got the PA system, beautiful. How does that work? Is that...
Welcome to the shed show.
And I noticed that most of the action here happens on the roof of your shed, Tim. Look what's going on up here. We've got the old lanterns, and what are those things hanging down?
Branding irons. A few different types. They've just come from here, there and everywhere.
Tim, I've had a great time here in your shed today. You've got a collection here. It's almost like a museum to tools and scales and so forth. And really, these are lost arts, and I'm glad that there's people like you keeping them going in the world today.
My idea was to pull a swimming pool out and build a shed over it, but the Minister for War put a foot down, and yeah, that's not going to happen now.
That's not going to happen just yet, but where there's a will, there's a Tim.
The Shed Show, the Shed Show. Come on.
Today on Shediquette, Hales is going to whip us up something quick in the shed, a nice little quick snack. What do you got for us, H?
Well, Whiskers, we got some pear, which I got from Dot across the back fence.
And what do we have here?
Also, Gino, mate down the road, he's given us this beautiful, beautiful prosciutto.
So what are we going to do?
Pretty easy. What we've done, we've cut our pear into 10mm slices.
Excuse me, you sure that's 10 mil?
Well, I don't know, we can have a look.
Can I just check there? Yep, 10 mil.
10 mil, fantastic. We're going to use our sandwich press. Pretty simple. Bang them on.
Oh, sorry, the tongs. Nothing touched with the human hand. Oh, listen to them sizzle too.
Fantastic.
How do you think they're going, H?
Well, it's been about a minute. We'll just have a quick check. I reckon a little bit more.
Oh, I wish this was smell-o-vision.
I reckon they're just about ready now, Whisker.
I hope so.
Oh, looking good.
Done to perfection, H.
Lucky last Whisker. Now that only took, what, a couple of minutes?
Not even.
Pear and prosciutto, easy.
The Shed Show, the Shed Show. Come on.
Sheds are creative spaces. Today we meet artist Steve May, whose shed allows him to combine his art and philosophy that all things can be made custom. Steve, thanks very much for welcoming us into your shed, or should I say studio, because you are an artist and I believe you're the king of the flame job, the pinstripe guru, and here's some beautiful examples. I love these old choppers here, they look fantastic. You've done all the work on these?
Yeah, these ones here, Whisker's done all the prep, paint from start to finish, so yeah.
What are some of the other things that you paint up for folks?
Oh, look mate, fridges, coffee machines.
I noticed you hot rodded a cafe, mate. That's for the hipsters, is it?
Oh yeah, well mate, I'm in Hipsterville, so yeah, no, the coffee machines are good ones, mate.
And I noticed you must have done your son's guitar work too. You're into music, I heard you saying, but
yeah.
So you do a bit of work for some musicians around as well?
Yeah, painted Dallas Frasca's guitar, the young bloke's guitar, so yeah, do a few guitars in it, mate.
And of course the artwork extends to the walls and all around the whole place too.
Yeah, I just sort of like to have a space where it's a bit colourful, a little bit different.
And I notice you do have the little backyard shed as well. It's been hot rodded as well, Steve. What do you use that one for,
mate? Nothing's ever normal, mate. That's just a storage area there, mate. I've got the old Broadmeadows line sign there as well.
All aboard! Look at this, you've got a caddy in the backyard too, hey? Tell us a bit about it. How'd you come across this rig?
Mate, I bought this off a mate in Ballarat. It was a shitter, mate. Yeah. So I had to take it back to bare metal and basically just give the whole thing a good going over, really. And Whiskers, this is basically where I do all my art, mate. So it's sort of like a slash, sort of like shed studio
art space.
Yeah. So well, as you can see, mate, I've got the whole. Sort of like where I do my automotive bike and stuff there, and inside here, mate, I do all the artwork and
this
music
is your passion?
and stuff. Yeah, look,
real passion.
I think that's where I'm really headed, mate. Like I'm really digging the artwork at the moment. Like I could go hire an art studio, but the thing is, I find having stuff here, I can be a bit more prolific, mate. Like I can paint like 8 to 10 hours a day here, and that doesn't sort of faze me.
And don't you think that actually being in the shed, I often say it's almost like a meditation space, and painting would be the same thing. It's almost like therapy.
Yeah, no, look, mate, I love it, mate. So, you know, I crank up some tunes, mate, do a bit of painting, and that's me done for the day, mate. I love it.
Steve is quite the humble man and artist. However, his paintings have reached the finals in the prestigious Moran Art Prize twice.
The Moran's basically the richest art prize in Australia, apparently, and I believe in the world.
Well, to be nominated for something like that,
Yeah,
it's
no,
pretty
look,
good from
mate.
your backyard.
Yeah, not bad from a boy from Broady, mate. But
Not
yeah,
bad,
no.
You've done well. This
Yeah.
is proper artwork, and it almost has a street feel, your art.
Yeah, it's sort of. I've had a couple of people say that. Yeah, I don't know, like how that sort of like turned out that way. But yeah, no, I like the street art and the modern art and stuff like
I
that.
noticed you even painted a hamburger, so you obviously...
Oh, did you see that,
I
did
saw
you? That's actually a whopper, that burger. But yeah, no, they've got that up there at Custom Burgers. Yeah, come up all right, that one. Yeah.
Beautiful. I'd like to thank the May family, Steve and the lovely Beck, the child bride, and the kids for welcoming us into your shed or art studio space. Thanks very much. It's been great to catch up with you,
look,
Steve.
mate, I appreciate you coming around, mate. It's been great.
Okay, on behalf of everyone at the Shed Show, thank you very much from the May family.
The Shed Show, the Shed Show. Come on.
If you want to be looking shed sharp, make sure you get to the website and pick up some Shed Show merch.
Next up, we catch the 69 tram to visit Roberto. And back doors, young man Shaun Nudl cranks up the shed session.
The Shed Show, the Shed Show. Come on. The Shed Show, the Shed Show. Come on.
As Kevin Paul told us, from little things, big things grow. A former tram conductor did just that when he created a collective to entertain and educate communities around Australia, but also as far away as Kolkata in India. Let's meet a Melbourne icon who started it all in this tiny backyard shed. Roberto.
Whiskers, how are you, mate?
Good to see you. I'm on time.
You're on time, and welcome to the world of trams, conductors and connies. Come in, mate.
Let's go and have a look.
Roberto, this would have to be one of the tiniest sheds we've been in so far, but it is so full of so much history and energy. Now, the connies, of course, conductors, or connies as we like to call them, they're a much loved part of our culture. What is the connies nowadays, though?
These days, we're a critically endangered human. We're from the seed stock of the old tram conductors, so I was a connie for 10 years at South Melbourne Depot.
Yep.
And we've taken those tram traditions, the performance of what used to happen on board the trams. Some connies sang, some connies recited poetry. Connies did all sorts of different things, and we've grabbed those performative traditions, and we're an outdoors performance troupe, a bit like buskers, gather people around, boom, boom, boom.
Well, you're always good at telling a yarn.
Love telling a yarn, boys, love telling a yarn.
And also, it's not just the history of trams, but nowadays you also give a conservation edge as well.
I've got a land care background, 25 years bush regenerating out near Lake Corangamite, and so I've got a love for our flora and fauna.
So Roberto, then, you've combined your two passions into one.
You know, Whiskers, I would never have left the trams if conductors were still there, and soon as we were sort of pushed out, we had all our gear, we'd been to India, we'd collected bags and things, and we just decided to keep conducting. You know, the first time they tried to get rid of conductors, I was only on 6 months beforehand, so I virtually started midway through 1989 and walked into the Great Tram Conductors Dispute. And, you know, on the last day of 1989, we were meant to sign a contract to get rid of the conductors. We all civilly disobeyed it. I was amazed at how driver and conductor stuck together. So on the first day of January 1990, when we didn't sign the contract, we actually ran the system ourselves. On that evening of the 1st of January, we got a tip off they were going to cut the power. At that point, when that was known, trammies, even dressed in pyjamas, drove half the tram fleet into the city. Elizabeth Street from Flinders Street Station to Victoria Market, both the up and the down track, trams all the way through. Collins Street had trams, Burke Street had trams. So it was like a tram blockade, which had been a traditional action.
Solidarity, that's what we like.
Solidarity
And
forever.
the tradition continues, the collective that you've got together now, going around and talking about the environmental issues and also the great cards and endangered species, like you mentioned earlier.
What we've done is we basically stock our bag with flora and fauna cards, so frogs, lizards, marsupials, woodland, wetland birds, and talk about how they are. We might say to them, and we could play for a minute here, we might say to people, what's a frog before it's a frog? A tad.
Oh.
Nicely done. What do they lay?
Eggs?
Eggs, beautifully done. So then we might talk about when they're laying their eggs. If it's a ground and grass frog, might be sort of August, September, once things are warming up, their endangered state. What is hurting them? It could be pollution, it could be wetland drainage.
I know you notice you do have a big emphasis on the waterways as well, and the way that we, the people, affect our waterways, which in turn affects our native species.
We're really on to the stormwater thing, and a lot of the organisations that we work with have a brief about pollution into wetlands, and there's a lot of concentration on keeping the Merri Creek or the Cororoid or the Yarra or the Maribyrnong in good shape, so Port Phillip Bay's in good shape, because whatever happens on land affects the sea as well.
And of course, everyone thought the conductors had gone. The Connies are here.
Mate, we're listed as critically endangered. We're in urgent need of a captive breeding program, and I would suggest to government that the city circle would be a nice place to put a few conductors back.
Okay, let's breed a few Connies like Roberto.
Roberto is a real character with plenty of yarns to tell. We'll catch up with him again later in the series.
Shed Show, the Shed Show. Come on.
I'm Shaun and I'm playing a Doors classic, Backdoor Man. Ah, yeah. I'm a backdoor man. Oh, baby, I'm a backdoor man. The men don't know what the little girls understand. Now all your people you trying to save, I'm not Jamaican with my midnight crave, yeah. I'm a backdoor man. The men don't know what the little girls understand. Five to one, baby, 1 in 5. No one here gets out alive now. You get yours, baby, I'll get mine. Gonna make it only if we try.
The Shed Show, the Shed Show. Come on.
Thanks to everyone for inviting us into their shed today.
Next week from Shed to Showstopper, we play the ex-boss. We get zen with Jen in her shed. Meet a man of many hats, head to the book launch of Men in Their Sheds, and we catch Redfin, proving old rockers never die. They just get a little heavier and end up in the shed.
The Shed Show, the Shed Show. Let's go. The Shed Show, the Shed Show. Come on.
The Shed Show is brought to you by these loving people. If you'd like to sponsor the show and shed the love, get in touch today. Cheers.